So at this point, you should be fairly familiar with the overall structure of your Canvas course, you know, the CHS template, what the module page options are. And let's talk a little bit now about the course management for you as an instructor. So if we go to settings and course details, so to get to settings, again, here's that list of links that appear on the left-hand side, not the global nav bar, but the one that comes right after that. And you can see here at the very bottom is this link for settings. When you click that, you'll be taken to this page here. Along the settings page at the top, there are different tabs. We're right now going to look at the course details tab. So within the course details, there'll be the name of your course and the course code. We aren't going to use Blueprint courses right now. Make sure that your time zone is set to Arizona because all of your due dates and times will then will relate to this time zone. Your sub-account will either be CHS or Arizona State University or ASU Online. Again, these sub-accounts in SysID probably only show up in my view here because I'm an admin. If you don't see them, don't worry about that. Here is your term start date. Now we all know that there's a sync date option within our student registration system. When you create or when you request your course shell, a little warning pops up or a notification pops up that says this is the sync date. It's typically 3 days before classes start. You can choose to change that sync date to, right the day before the classes start or open up even earlier. 3 days is fairly standard, and I wouldn't suggest that you have to change it, but if you have some reason to change that 3 days sync date, then this is where you would change it. We are not currently putting an end date on courses. That means that students are able to access that course. Once it's done, it'll remain in their course list. If you feel strongly that you don't want students to have access to that material, you can put an end date and check this box here that says users can only participate in the course between these dates. So just remember to make your end date past the end of the semester so that your students, if there's any last minute changes that you allow them to make or any last minute things that they have to do, they still have access. Again, by default in our CHS template, we do not put an end date. And then you'll see here file storage. There is a file storage limit, and this goes back to not uploading your video clips or your audio clips and using one of our streaming media servers, either MediaAmp or Wistia, depending on the course format you have, whether it's on ground or online. So these are a few of the course details here. Please make sure that you check your grading scheme when you get your course from your instructional designer. There is a little handout that goes along with the notification that your course is ready to give you more information about the grading scheme, but you just want to make sure that your grades or your A's, B's, and C's correspond to the percentages that you're looking for. And Canvas only counts in percentages, not in points. Let's look at what other information is available on this page. So we talked about publishing and non-publishing. So basically, if the course is published, that means it's available to the student. Let's look real quick at how we can tell if a course is published or how we can publish the course. So if we go into a course shell, as long as there are no graded assignments, which would then mean that the course obviously has been published, on the home page of the course, you will see this course status area here. So remember that we've already set up our home page to be the syllabus, so you can either click on home or you can click on syllabus and you'll be taken to the same page. So for example, when you're given your dev shell from your instructional designer, that shell might not be published yet, and you'll see this unpublish or publish button. I want to show you now in the shell that I was working in earlier where I do have submissions. On this home page, I no longer have that option to publish or unpublish, and that's because I have assignments that have already been submitted. So just keep that in mind, that when you go to your settings tab and you see that course is published, you'll notice you cannot unpublish this course if there are graded students' assignments. So a really good way to develop your course is to have this dev or development shell. keep the course unpublished, and go through all the changes that you'd like to make. When it's ready, you can publish it and then share it with other faculty members for their review. Or when you're ready to make it into the actual course, you can contact your instructional designer to show you how to make that into a live course. Or we also have that resource available on our employee site with instructions on how to take your dev course to a live course. So again, we're looking at settings, we're looking at whether or not the course is published, and if you want to unpublish the course, you have to make sure you have no assignments, or you haven't asked somebody else to pop in the shell and submit an assignment, which will preclude you from unpublishing the course. Let's take a quick tour of the other settings that are available from our course settings page, or the course details tab on the settings page. The student view we've already talked about if you want to look at it from the perspective of a student. The course calendar, this is another area from which you can access the assignments and any other learning events or to-dos that you've given your students. For right now, the import and export course content are outside the scope of the introductory Canvas session. And validate links and content is a great way to check whether all the links that you have uploaded in your course shell are actually working. So this would be what I call the pre-flight checklist, or the pre-flight checklist before you launch your course every semester. We all use YouTube links. We all use links out to other resources. We have no control over what's happening to those links. So it's always good to click this validate links and content link. Canvas will go through and check all those links for you, and then it'll come back with a report that says everything's great, or these are the links that I found that don't work. If you have issues with trying to resolve some of those questions, again, feel free to contact us at the Learning Group. A lot of those issues go out to YouTube, like I said, YouTube sites or things like that. And unfortunately, we have no knowledge of what those sites are. But if you're seeing that it is actually a Canvas course link that's broken, we can definitely help with that. So now that you know about some of the important course settings, let's look at how you'd actually edit some content and create pages in your course. So editing content within Canvas is very similar to editing or writing a Word doc. You'll see that same text editor in there. You do have a few extra options, obviously, but it should be fairly straightforward if you've ever written a Word doc or used a word processor. Remember to save your changes. And this is important because you might have heard that Canvas is in the cloud and you think it's updating automatically. It's not. For editing your pages, you want to make sure you always click save. So let's go into the live Canvas course and look at what that looks like. So here I am in my modules page, and I want to edit the welcome to the class page. So I'm going to click on that page. Canvas takes me directly there. And you can see that when I'm viewing it at first, it's not in edit mode. So I have to click this edit button. So just a few notes on this page here. You can notice that this page is published. I can unpublish it from here as well as from the modules page. And then if I click my little snowman icon, you can delete it. I wouldn't worry about changing your front page or sharing this as to Commons right now, again, outside the scope of this session. But if you want to view the page history, like you want to go back and make sure that you made some changes, you might have liked a previous version, you can go back here and restore the version that you liked more. And that is one of the great things that this is in the cloud. These versions are available because I clicked save. So just make sure one more time, I know I've said it already, but just make sure that you're clicking save when you do your edits. So let's get out of there and actually go in and edit this page. So click the edit button, and now I'm seeing something that's a little more familiar with this WYSIWYG editor, or this text editor that you're probably pretty familiar with from Blackboard or Word or whatever your word processing is. So up here is the page title. You have to have a title. You can put in this area text, images, videos, tables, links. This is how you would link out directly to MediaAmp when you've stored your videos there. Be on the lookout for a separate MediaAmp training that we are going to have listed on the page are the rest of our videos if you're not too familiar with video or media streaming. This button links directly to your Google Drive. Again, getting into the Google Drive and integration and all that's a little beyond this scope, but it will be covered in the advanced Canvas session and also in a separate Google for your classroom training. And then again, this is one of those things where, you just want to go in and play around with what all the different options are. I think I would lose your interest pretty quickly if I went through and tried out all of these buttons. But some things that you do want to be aware of, for example, I have here some text and a video embedded. But let's say I want to now add a file, like a PowerPoint file after this text. So you'll see here on the side that Canvas gives me links, files, images. So I can now link to a different page within Canvas simply by dragging that page title here. So let's say I want to add this page here. It shows up as a link, and that link will now take me to the page within this course that's called Get Help. So I can do that. Let me just delete that because I don't want to do that right now. I can also go to Files, and then here are my course images, and I could add another image or the course banner. This is a link out to that as well. So you can link out to different things within your course directly from this structure here. Now, what if I don't want to put a link? What if I want to actually add the image? Well, then I would click on the Images tab, and the images that I have within my files are all here. I could also upload a new image. Let's say I have one on my computer, so I would click that and then go through the choose file and choose your folder. This goes back to the file structure that we talked about at the very beginning of this session. I would always want to make sure that I put it into my files if it's something that I'll use in all courses, or if it's just for this course, I would put it under course files. And then upload. You can also search Flickr, which is Creative Commons. So just keep in mind that Flickr is not a moderated site, and some of the images will not be appropriate for your courses, but everything that's presented through that search term right here, through the search box, is available for use in your courses. There are no copyrights on it. So that's kind of a neat thing to do if you can't find images or if you want to put an illustration on a page. So those are other things that I can do. I can link to any of these items here directly from this page. I can go ahead and type in, even mathematical equations. And then here on this little icon, I can check the accessibility of the page. So once I click it, my accessibility checker runs. You'll see that no issues were detected. You might see in some other courses, they have different tabs within a page, or they have all sorts of great formats. Those are fantastic. I love them. I love the layout, but they aren't always accessible. Course readers might have a hard time, especially if you've built things as a table. They have the course reader goes very slowly through the table, so we've opted to not use tables just to keep the accessibility as universal as possible. And just keep in mind also that a lot of those features that you might be seeing in other courses, when you open the course up in the app, it won't be formatted in quite the same way. Not to say that you can't use those, but please be aware that we've got some very standardized pages in the template for a reason, and happy to discuss that more if you want to change the layout of your page. So you go in and make your edits, and down here you can edit the page so that students or teachers or anyone can change that content. I'm not sure why in our college settings we would have anybody be able to edit the page, but you might be doing some kind of collaborative project with your students where you want them to also have the ability to change the content. Just be aware that, again, it's not moderated, so if students are changing something, you have to go back and check it every time. So by default, everything is set to only teachers can edit this page. And then a kind of a new feature that Canvas has added is this Add to Student To Do. You recall on the syllabus page there was a list of assignments and due dates. What you can do also is add it to a student to-do list and give it a date, and even though it's not an assignment or a quiz, this will now appear on their calendar and on that initial list. So for example, if you need them to read an article before they come to class, you would put the article name in here, you would put the student to-do date for, prior to class, and then students would have a reminder in their calendar and in their syllabus page as well. And then finally, let's say you have changed the reading for a section, or you've changed the due date. You can go in and change this and then click here, notify users that the content has changed. Users will get a notification, again, depending on what their settings are. So just keep in mind that even if you check this box, you'll still want to make sure either through an announcement in class or announcements through the course shell to let them know that this change has been made. Don't forget to click Save. Oh, I'm just going to take that out. So don't forget to click Save. And that's, how you would edit a page. It's really quite intuitive. Again, if you need any help, feel free to reach out. So I want to show you for assignments. We had talked about hiding and showing assignments based on what you want students to be able to see. Let's look at that real quick because there are two concepts here that I want to discuss. There is availability date and due date. So here I have navigated to one of my assignments, and if I click edit here, and again, to edit your assignment, it's the same thing. I click the edit button, I change the text, I can change the points, the submission type, whether you want them to upload a document or type directly into the interface. Turnitin is our plagiarism checker, so that's where you would turn that on if you want it. But down here, if you scroll quite a bit down, is the assign box. The available from means, okay, so students, as soon as you put that available from, they'll be able to see that assignment and they'll be able to upload their submissions. So just remember that the due date is different from the available from date. If your due date is November 10th, you can make this available from November 8th, but then anything after November 10th becomes late because that's the due date. Just because it was available from November 8th, it doesn't mean that November 9th, if they submit now, it's late because the due date is set to something else. So please keep in mind that the due date is different from the availability date. And so you can change the availability date to, make the same date as the due date, and students won't be able to see that assignment ahead of time. So just something to keep in mind. So just building on that, I'm here in the syllabus page under the course summary. The dates that are shown here are the due dates